Hansel and Gretel. In a quiet village at the edge of a great dark forest, there lived a poor woodcutter and his wife. They had 2 children, a clever little boy named Hansel and his kind-hearted sister Gretel. The family was very poor, and the times were hard. Every day, the woodcutter worked tirelessly chopping trees and gathering wood, but even then, they often went to bed hungry. One cold winter, a terrible famine struck the land. Food became scarce, and the little that people had was saved carefully. The woodcutter's family had almost nothing left to eat, only a few crumbs of bread and a handful of flour. One night, when Hansel and Gretel were already in bed, the woodcutter and his wife sat by the dying fire, whispering in worry. "What will become of us?" sighed the man. "We have nothing left to eat. The children are starving. What can we do?" His wife, who was not their real mother but a harsh stepmother, replied coldly, "Listen to me, husband. Tomorrow morning, we will take the children deep into the forest. We will make a fire and tell them to rest while we go to cut wood. Then we will leave them there. They will not find their way back, and we will no longer have to feed them." The woodcutter gasped. "No! I cannot do such a cruel thing. How could I leave my own children to die alone in the woods?" But his wife pressed him harder. "Foolish man! If we keep them, we will all die of hunger. You must do as I say." After much arguing and weeping, the poor man agreed at last, his heart heavy with sorrow. But Hansel, who had been awake and listening, heard everything. Quietly, he slipped out of bed and crept outside under the pale moonlight. The moon was shining brightly, and the ground sparkled with tiny white pebbles. Hansel filled his pockets with as many pebbles as he could carry, then tiptoed back to bed. "Don't worry, Gretel," he whispered. "God will not abandon us. I have a plan. The first journey into the forest." At dawn, the cruel stepmother woke the children. "Get up, lazybones," she cried. "We're going to the forest to gather wood." She gave them each a small piece of bread, saying, "This is for your lunch. Don't eat it too soon, there will be nothing more." Hansel slipped the bread into his pocket beside the pebbles. Then, as they walked along the narrow path, he stopped now and then to look back. Each time, he dropped one of the white pebbles on the ground. "Hansel, why do you keep stopping and looking back?" asked his stepmother sharply. "I'm just looking at my little white cat sitting on the roof," said Hansel. "It's saying goodbye to me." "You fool," she snapped. "That's not your cat. It's just the morning sun shining on the chimney." But Hansel kept dropping pebbles until they were deep in the forest. At last, the stepmother said, "Rest here, children. We'll go cut wood, and when we're done, we'll come back for you." She and the woodcutter started a small fire, and the children sat beside it. Hansel and Gretel waited. They listened to the sound of the axe striking with thunk, 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 but after a long time, the sound stopped. They didn't know that their stepmother had tied a branch to a tree, and the wind made it knock back and forth, so it sounded like chopping wood. When night fell, the forest grew dark and frightening. The children sat close to the fire, but finally, it went out. "Gretel," whispered Hansel, "wait until the moon rises. Then we can find our way home." When the moon came up, the white pebbles shone like tiny stars, showing them the path. Step by step, the children followed the glittering trail all the way back to their father's cottage. When they knocked on the door, the woodcutter was overjoyed to see them. "My dear children," he cried, hugging them tightly. But their stepmother scowled. "You naughty brats," she shouted. "Where have you been? You made us worry." But in her heart, she was furious that her plan had failed. The second journey into the forest. A few days later, the famine grew worse. The little bit of food they had was gone. Again, the cruel stepmother said to her husband, "We must take the children deeper into the forest. This time, they will not return." The woodcutter wept, but his wife gave him no peace until he agreed. That night, Hansel again tried to go outside to collect pebbles, but the door was locked. "Oh no," he whispered to Gretel. "I can't get out. We'll have to think of something else." The next morning, the stepmother gave them another tiny piece of bread. As they walked into the forest, Hansel crumbled his bread and dropped the crumbs along the way, hoping to mark the path home. They went deeper and deeper into the forest, even farther than before. Again, their parents built a fire and left them, pretending to cut wood. Hansel and Gretel waited and waited, but no one came back. When night fell, they tried to follow the trail of breadcrumbs, but alas! The crumbs were gone. The birds of the forest had eaten them all. Now the children were truly lost. The trees loomed tall and black, and strange sounds echoed in the night, the hoot of an owl, the snapping of branches. Hansel took Gretel's hand. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. "We'll find a way out." They wandered all night and all the next day, growing hungrier and weaker. Just when they were about to give up, Gretel saw something shining in the distance. "Look, Hansel," she cried. "A little house. The witch's house." As they came closer, they saw that the house was made entirely of sweets, the walls were built of gingerbread, the windows of clear sugar, and the roof was covered in cakes. The air smelled of honey and cinnamon. Moral: even in the darkest times, courage and kindness light the way.